Today we're going to continue with our grooming series, and we're going to talk about how we take care of the mane, how we braid it for horse shows, and what things we can do for longer hair to keep the horse healthy.
So before we get too far along, we need to ask, what is the mane? So the mane is defined as long and heavy hair growing about the neck and head of some mammals, such as horses and lions, which is partially true, but for a horse it actually grows from their crest. So the crest is on the top of the neck, it's the top line, and that's where the hair grows from. So how do we take care of this mane? So manes can be taken care of in two different ways, by brushing or by bathing. You don't want to do either option a lot. It can make the hair a little bit more brittle and can be more likely to be damaged later on. If those two steps aren't working, then we would look into the horse's diet and make sure that they're getting enough proteins so that the mane can be healthy and can grow the proper way.
First thing we're going to do, we're going to talk about mane pulling. And mane pulling is actually the shortening or thinning of the mane. So the mane is here, and there are two different ways we can shorten the mane. We can shorten the mane by actually pulling the hair out from the root, a few hairs at a time so it doesn't hurt. Or we can take a stripping comb or a pair of scissors, or we could even use a razor blade, and we just shorten it because it's too thin to pull. The purpose, as we stated, was for professional presentation, but we can also do it for health reasons. If a mane is really thick, you're going to want to make sure that you make it shorter so that the bacteria doesn't grow inside of the mane. But we'll talk about more of that as we go. The key to a short, thin mane is practice. It takes practice to shorten a mane. It sounds like it would be real simple. You would go clip, 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 and it would be short. It doesn't work like that. The manes are thick, and the hair is a texture that if you cut it, it really doesn't lay down, and it just sticks out, and it doesn't look tidy. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to get our utensils. We have a mane pulling comb. Some combs are just this length. It doesn't have the handle. I like the handle. For me, it's easier to hold on to. We also have what's called a stripping comb. These teeth that we have inside here, they're very sharp. And what you do is you cut the mane. We talked about using a razor blade. This is the kind that actually has a razor blade, sorry about that, inside. So this is a razor blade like you would use in a razor to shave your beard. And so it just fits inside. And it's the same idea. It has the teeth and the blades inside. The best time to pull your horse's mane is right after you've worked them, because the muscles after exercise have become much more relaxed. So it's easier to actually pull from the root. Right? Yeah, he says that's correct. Also, the warmer the day, the better it is also, because you can just take and everything is relaxed. You know, when you're cold, you're real tense. It's the same thing with their neck. When they're cold, their body's tense. So what we're going to start with is we are going to prepare it by taking all of the tangles out of the mane. So we're using our mane and tail brush. We're using a brush. We also have combs, but we're going to use a brush. And we are going to get it nice. I will tell you that if your mane is clean, like if you've just washed it, and you go to pull it, it's going to be harder to hold on to it. So you may want to use some rubber gloves that will help you stick to the mane. But our mane is not clean today. It is dirty, so it should be easier to hold on to. Most horses, you're going to use a combination of your comb for pulling and your stripping blade for cutting. Most horses will have a mane that is thin here and thicker in the middle. So in order to braid your horse's mane for showing or for just to keep it clean and maybe not as tangled, you're going to actually want to use both. So you're going to probably strip it here, pull a little bit, and strip it here. We're going to start with stripping because his is really thin. Look, it is so thin, you can actually see through it. So if we pulled that, there would be nothing left. Let's see here. See, it's thicker there. It's still pretty thin, so we're not going to pull much. We're probably going to do more stripping. So you're going to take your comb, get it straight. You're going to take the end, you're going to hold, and you're going to push up because you want only to cut the longer hairs. And you're going to cut. Your comb is going to then, see, I'm already how much shorter. And you're going to push up and come down. And you're going to come all the way. The thicker the mane, the harder it is to do this and the longer it's going to take. Because you'll have to take many more sections of hair because you're only going to do a few hairs at a time. Otherwise, it can hurt. Some horses are more sensitive than others. So the more sensitive they are, the longer it's going to take. You may even want to do it in a few sessions. So do a little bit one day and then come back and do another on another day. So we're going to just bebop along here. And of course, the more you do it, the more practice you have, the quicker you're going to be. Now we're starting to get where it's thicker. And I'm still just cutting right now. Or stripping is what it's called. Sometimes when you go to the beauty parlor, depending on the salon, as we call it now, I guess, sometimes you actually had to have it done, depending on your hairstyle. So we are gonna pull here in a minute, as soon as I get this the same length. Now the way you can tell is you're gonna come down and you're gonna look and see. You want a straight line. So this is not quite straight yet. All right, now we're gonna thicker here, so we need to pull it a little bit in order to make it the same length. So you do the same idea. Now we're using our comb. You put your hair in and you wrap it around and you pull. And that pulls the hair from the roots. Oh, I have a knot. Normally, I don't have a knot. There we go. It takes longer to pull than it does to strip. So if you can get away with stripping, it really makes it go faster. Okay, now we've made that thinner, so we can go back to stripping. So you're going to go back and forth probably. And most horses, they would rather you strip if you can, of course, because you're pulling the root out. This is when your hair is dirty, you will have more tangles as you do this, but it's easier to hold on to. So it just kind of depends on your style and your horse's mane as to which you do. And we just keep going. Some horses, if they're very sensitive, you can buy some Lanacane gel, which is a topical numbing. It's just a gel, and what it does is it numbs the skin, and you can put it where your mane is. You can rub it in underneath, and that will help to numb the skin. So if they think that it's hurting, if you think it's hurting them, it will actually numb the skin and they won't feel it. Most horses are okay with it if you take smaller sections of hair. If you take big sections, you're actually pulling a lot at one time, and that's going to tend to hurt them more than if you were taking little bitty sections. And you just keep on going. If he were being hurt, he would be moving around a lot. That's one way I would know that I needed to get him some Lanacane gel, or I were taking too big of sections of mane. So sometimes manes are really thick, and that can create problems because the thicker the mane is, the hotter it is on the horse, and it also that moisture and that heat can grow microorganisms and parasites and things that grow in the mane. So sometimes we do what's called hogging or roaching, and that means we cut the mane. Hers is ready to be cut again in another week or so, but we take a pair of clippers with a guard so it can only cut so much, and it goes through and goes and just cuts the top off. If you look, her mane, her neck is that wide. That's a lot of hair. So she would get really hot and she would get super itchy, and then she would itch and itch and itch and make these big sores in her mane. So we decided this year that we would roach it and see if that's made a difference, and it's incredible because she hasn't even attempted to scratch this year. So it's a good thing, but I think it just made her neck so hot. If you remember, it was so thick it laid down on both sides. So her neck was so hot that it was uncomfortable for her. So she was like, oh, I gotta itch, it's driving me crazy. So we have roached hers this year, and it has made a big difference. Sometimes you roach when you have breeds that you're gonna show. Sometimes those characteristics of that breed, when you show it, is a roached mane. Sometimes they roach the forelocks. We didn't, because remember this forelock, remember from last year, this forelock helps keep the flies out of their eyes. Once we get our mane the length we want for braiding, then we have to gather our utensils. We're going to need a pair of scissors. We're going to need a latch hook. Sometimes you can use a needle it's got a circle of twine on it, or any kind of string, yarn, anything on the end. We're going to need a comb or a safety pin. It's a bright color so you can see. Some shows the classes will allow you to have colored braids, but most of the time it's going to be the color of the mane.